Olá, bem-vindo ao videocast From the Top, a tradicional entrevista da revista AutoData com executivos do setor automotivo e áreas correlatas que você pode ler todos os meses na publicação online ou assistir aqui no nosso canal do YouTube. Para ler lá, você acessa o site autodata.com.br. Mas antes de começar a entrevista deste mês, vamos ver a mensagem da Continental Parafusos.
No mercado há quase meio século, a Continental Parafusos oferece aos setores automotivo, linha branca, construção civil e eletrônicos um portfólio completo de parafusos, porcas e peças especiais. Nossa operação é otimizada. Além do robusto processo produtivo, os nossos clientes contam com pontualidade nas entregas e estoques de segurança. Somos uma empresa moderna, segura e legalista, que paga os tributos garantindo a segurança dos nossos clientes.
E o entrevistado deste mês é o Achim Puchert, que desde janeiro do ano passado é presidente da Mercedes-Benz do Brasil e CEO da Daimler Truck América Latina. Ele é economista, administrador de empresas e, com apenas 44 anos, é o mais jovem presidente que a Mercedes-Benz já teve aqui no Brasil em seus 67 anos de história no país. Mas não falta experiência ao Achim Puchert, que já trabalha há 20 anos no grupo Daimler, sempre na divisão de caminhões, e antes de vir aqui para o Brasil, ele foi vice-presidente sênior de operações de mercados internacionais da Daimler Truck and Buses. O Achim chegou aqui com a missão de recolocar a Mercedes na rota de liderança e também da rentabilidade. Por isso, não faltam decisões difíceis a tomar, como uma reestruturação das operações e do quadro de funcionários. Vamos falar com ele aqui sobre isso e muito mais outras questões que ele poderá responder sobre o futuro da companhia aqui no Brasil. Como o Achim está aqui pouco tempo trabalhando no Brasil, nós vamos falar com ele em inglês. Não deu tempo dele aprender português ainda. Achim, many thanks to be with us for this interview. And I have to start with a very simple question. How have you been your last 1 year and a half here in Brazil?
Well, first of all, Pedro, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Happy to be here today with you. The last 1.5 years, I would say, were a little bit of a roller coaster journey. I've been working in a lot of different international environments, but I think what we've seen in the last 1.5 years was quite a journey. Starting last year with the supply crisis on the ship side, strong demand on the customer side, trying to really fulfill all customer orders to produce as many vehicles as possible. And coming to this year where the market is cooling down, we have introduced Euro 6, interest rates are high and demand is lower, obviously is quite an agile environment. And combined with that one, we also were facing last year quite a big transformation program that we discussed, developed and initiated. So all in all, a lot of balls in the air for the first 1.5 years. And on top to the job-related topics, obviously getting familiar with Brazil, Latin America, new culture, new people, new way of doing business. And you mentioned it, learning Portuguese. The later, I still have room for potential for improvement.
So it was a very intensive time, as I could learn. But what was your reaction, Achim, when you were invited by Daimler Truck to lead from 2022 the operations of Mercedes-Benz here in Brazil? What did you know about the country before and the company here?
Well, my first reaction was, obviously, I was very excited and flattered. Why? Few reasons. On the one hand side, Brazil and the Latin American business is very important for Mercedes-Benz trucks and buses overall. So it's quite a big piece of our business. And I was also aware that the company was not in the state as it has been in the past, and I believe where it belongs to be in the future. So quite a bit of a challenge combined with uncertainty. The good thing, I think, what really helped me in the beginning is that I've been to Brazil quite a few times. My family lives here, my grandparents and some uncles and aunts. So I knew the country and I knew the people, and I had the first glimpse, which really made it even more exciting to be here.
Sure. And what mission did Daimler Truck entrust to you for the Brazilian operation? What's your main mission here, or first mission?
Well, obviously, as I mentioned, Mercedes-Benz trucks and buses here in Brazil is very important for overall Daimler trucks and buses. And the mission, yeah, it was kind of, we had quite a long history here with 67 years, a very strong footprint and a very successful footprint. The last decade, however, we were not on the level that I guess we were supposed to be, our shareholders expected us to be, but also to put us in a position to invest into our future. The headquarters strongly believes in Brazil and Latin America as an important commercial vehicle market. So there was a lot of investment done in the past, but now it was about the discussion how we get a more resilient business model, especially when we are having up and downs in the demand, to make sure that we are resilient and also ensuring sufficient profitability in the downturns. So one topic obviously was to restructure the business and make it fit for the future. And with this making fit for the future, obviously comes a restructuring part that we are currently in, but also defining then the future and the target picture towards 2030. And obviously looking at the overall industry globally and the changes and the trends by new competition, by new technologies, new ways of doing business. One important pillar is obviously to define those for Brazil and for Latin America, but also to see and work, do we have the right skill set? Do we have the right culture to be also successful for the next decades to come here?
But have you already had time enough to get used to the ups and downs of the country?
Well, not necessarily in Brazil, but I've been working in my career with a lot of overseas markets, you know, the non-classical European or American or Japanese markets where we have a lot of up and downs. Looking at the Middle East, looking at Africa, but also at Eastern Europe. So somehow I would say the up and downs is not really something that is concerning me or making me nervous. But the most important thing for the up and downs is that you are agile on reacting. And I think you can imagine big companies like ours are not always in the front when it is about agility. So the up and downs is, I would say, something to be aware of. The masterpiece is then in managing the cycles and being agile and reacting to it, and to get the company fit for that.
Right. And speaking about that, exactly 1 year ago, Mercedes-Benz announced an impressive plan to restructure its headcount in Brazil, outsourcing areas of logistics, maintenance, production of axles and transmissions, tooling, and laboratories. All this involves to cut 3,600 employees, including 1,200 temporary workers who did not have their contracts renewed. But almost 900 of them has been called back in November to meet the increase in production by that time. And my question is, right now the company opened the voluntary dismissal plan. And so the question is, how is it going? Have the targets of this plan has been achieved?
Okay, Pedro, obviously, the headcount topic was one of the transformation contents. But what we are looking at, and maybe to put it into perspective, we are restructuring the company as a whole. So we are looking at the product portfolio, we're looking at the people, the culture, on the revenue side, on the cost side, and also on the footprint. And one topic we have been discussing is that do we have the right space and the right financial situation in order to invest into our future? And by doing so, you mentioned the outsourcing activities of services. So we figured that obviously those are like non-core activities, which have been an important pillar in the past, but will not be the carrying ones in the future, and also maybe not let us the room for investing into new activities. So we believe that we need to source those activities obviously locally from the ABC region. And on the component side, we also see and find that there are local suppliers that might do it with a better performance, that would help us overall and our customers in their operations. And the 3,600, yes, I agree, it's quite a big number. The 1,000 temporary obviously are related to the production volume and the fluctuation. And the other remaining ones, it was not the case that obviously they left at the same time. The program is stretched until 25. People are leaving in stages. And in 22, yes, we had quite a strong demand. And we expected a sign of a cooling, which didn't occur. So we called some people back. And as you know, as I mentioned, or as I said before, the world was very agile. So we were trying to steer this in the best and efficient way. And looking into where we are standing, I would say we are progressing. This year, lower volumes obviously doesn't really help on the absolute profitability, but we are slowly improving on our situation. And looking towards 25, I'm pretty confident that we are on a good way. Yes, we had also intensive discussions with the unions on the program that we jointly agreed to shape a voluntary dismissal program, which was a hard but constructive dialogue, because in the end we all want the same. We want the company to maintain successful and to be able to earn money to invest into the future and in the technologies and topics that we are facing.
But right now, how Mercedes is dealing with the plunge of the market estimated and around 30% this year? It's a bold number, a bold percentage. How Mercedes is dealing with this right now?
So we see and we saw that the market this year was decreasing a little bit stronger than we initially expected. We had a really good start into the first quarter in terms of sales and market share. We then were facing a decrease in demand and an order intake that was below last year's level. And we saw a phase in May, June, July where our sales volume was dropping. And together with the unions and obviously with the management here, we're using the tool of temporary layoffs to reduce the production output, to react against the decreasing order intake situation. I think as we look now, the tool was efficient to manage this down months and during the summer period. What we see now, we see a slight increase on the market and on the order side. That's why we know from September onwards we are increasing the output. However, still looking at the market and the order and demand development to counter steer if necessary.
Let's speak a little about the Juiz de Fora plant. It was a plant which faced many transformations in the last decade, let's say. With currently weld and paints cabins, do you consider this is an efficient operation, and what are the prospects for this plant?
So we have invested quite strongly also in Juiz de Fora, the same way as we have done here in São Bernardo. And it's a very modern plant. We have a very modern welding activity and a paint shop there for our cabins. And it's fully integrated in our logistics and process flow here in the São Bernardo plant. And we are working on a 4.0 industry standard, and the flexibility and the model mix steering in terms of different cabin sizes, different colors, is very efficient and is a backbone of our operations here, obviously in São Bernardo, for assembling the final trucks.
Okay. Your predecessors said that the main problem of Mercedes-Benz do Brasil is that the company had no profits. or not enough profits. But as you said, do you expect that in 2025 this ongoing plan will restore the profits?
Yeah, some people say there's strong expectation of the shareholders in terms of dividends. Yeah? And I think that's somewhat true, because now with the split of the Daimler Group in the Daimler Truck and in the passenger car division, here the business in Brazil and Latin America on the bus and truck side got a lot more transparent on the capital market side. And obviously, shareholders are looking how the Daimler Truck Group is doing overall globally, but they also have a look at the respective regions. So there's more attention and more awareness. But I think this is something that we are not really should be scared of. What I think is more important, obviously, yes, shareholder returns are important, but we should be in a situation that we earn the money and the profits to invest into our future. We have now a new Euro 6 model line up here, but we also talk about new technologies. And obviously, the easiest would be to ask your mother, give me the funding and we will invest, and you will kind of maybe get something back for it or not. And this is something obviously we don't want to stand for. Yeah, we want to have a business model that is able to shape our own future by using global synergies, but also obviously contributing profitably to the Daimler Truck Group overall. But this not as a primary reason, because being profitable obviously also gives perspectives for your employees here as workplaces, and that have an impact on social developments, on the technology development of Brazil and Latin America, and obviously, most importantly, also to serve our customers and our dealers, because without a sustainable, profitable business, they also will not be able to be successful with our products, our services in the future.
Achim, what's your perception about the performance of the Brazilian and Latin America truck and bus markets? What can be done, on your opinion, to improve the performance? And let me link with another question too. What do you expect better times from 24 and ahead?
Well, I would be happy to have that glass bowl, but obviously we have a few premises, Pedro. So looking at Latin America, and I think there is no doubt, obviously volume-wise and financially-wise, the music plays in Brazil. Yeah? Because this is our single biggest market, even the single biggest one for Mercedes-Benz trucks and buses in the world. So obviously we are very much looking how is the Brazilian economy and the transportation industry for freight and for people developing. Looking at the scenarios for 24, we are in Brazil a little bit more positive than we see this year. And I think we see the first trends on interest rates slightly decreasing. We have a discussion on the tax reform program, which obviously also could stimulate to growth. We have the PAC, the growth program, which obviously benefits on the infrastructural side, but probably also requires a lot of trucks to build and buses to transport the workers. So we see there are a lot of topics that give us confidence for 24 in Brazil to go to a little better market and demand situation than this year. Since Latin America is a little bit, I would say a diverse pot of differences. The situation in Argentina, we are closely monitoring. We have the election this year in October with interesting pre-elections. And we are currently seeing no major impacts under the given premises. So we expect a stable volume. But however, the impact of the election on the pesos and the currency we need to monitor. And also there we are separating in Argentina from the car business and investing in Argentina because we also believe that Argentina is an important market for Daimler trucks and buses in the future. And then you have other markets and like Peru, Colombia, Chile. Chile, for instance, for us is very interesting because they're strong on the electrification. We are bringing the Mercedes-Benz e-Actros to Chile already. We're having other parts, the Fuso e-Canter coming from Japan. And we're also bringing the EO 500 electric bus chassis to other Latin American markets. So as you see, a lot of different political economic frameworks, but overall we are more optimistic for 24 than in 23.
Right. And regarding the question that I promised that you, when you arrived, that I would make every time I meet you. Mercedes-Benz had an investment cycle in Brazil of 2.4 billion reais from 2018 to 2022 to launch new products, to modernize its industrial operations. Well, it has been done, as far as I know. With this ongoing restructuring plan, will the company continue investing in the country as well of its competitors are doing right now?
Well, thanks for the question, Pedro. And indeed, I expected it. So I think some of the answer you will probably recognize. Yes, we invested quite heavily, 2.4 billion reais from 2018 to 2022 in the products, into the Euro 6 preparation, into our plants. Yes, we also invested in the transformation in terms of the voluntary leaving program and other activities that are obviously important for paving our way until 25. Obviously, these investments, as I mentioned last times, need to pay off and materialize. We see first very positive results that we are on a good path. And now the discussion that we are initiating, obviously, what happens beyond 25 towards 2030 in terms of investment in products, investment in services. Still work in process. And I will share with you, I promise, once we have a little bit more concrete numbers. But as for now, yeah, nothing really to disclose yet.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about technology development of the Brazilian truck and bus industry. Mercedes-Benz has always invested in the local development of its vehicles in Latin America. What is the future of the research and development of the company in Brazil?
So obviously, looking at the E or the ZEV, zero emission vehicles, the Daimler Truck commitment is that we are obviously contributing globally to the decarbonization of the industry. And looking at Brazil, I think we have quite a big R&D area here on the truck and on the bus side. For instance, just to give you a feeling, we are currently the global hub for the electric bus chassis development. So here the competence is based in São Bernardo, and we develop and produce a product for Brazil, for Latin America, and for the export into the world. On the truck side, yes, we are having a few topics running that we do locally here, but we also look at potential from the overall group, being at Mercedes, bringing at our colleagues in Asia, to bring to Brazil and to either adapt on the R&D support from here, or to even look for localizing of components and so on.
One important driver to fulfill capacity in the factories are exports. And do you think the level of exports of Mercedes-Benz to Brazil is acceptable? Do you think it can be raised? And to where?
Yeah. So looking at the numbers, the share of exports is increasing in 22 to 23. On the one hand side, yeah, because the local demand is a little bit weaker than in the past years. But obviously, export is always a good way to balance the fluctuations in the domestic market. And since we are highly dependent on the Brazilian market for Mercedes-Benz do Brasil, one of our strategies is to increase export volumes. Yeah? And Mercedes-Benz Trucks is selling to a lot of countries in the world where we have our products, some of them coming from Europe, but we also sell from Brazil, obviously on the one hand side to Latin America, but we have also our products running in Middle East and in African countries. For us, export is a big pillar, obviously, to balance the domestic truck and bus market. And on the other hand, I think this is also very remarkable. We are also using Brazil to export engines to the US, to Europe, and to other markets in the world, as well as gearboxes that we are exporting from here. So we have component export, which I think is quite good, and shows the competitiveness of selected industries and components here. And we have the full vehicles that we are exporting.
As you said, this semester, Mercedes began to producing its first electric vehicle here in Brazil, the bus chassis EO500U. And my question is, do you have interest? Do you feel interest in the customers to produce more EVs, more electric vehicles, like trucks and other buses?
Yeah, so on the bus side, Pedro, the interest is pretty high. We have a deal running in Sao Paulo with around 100 units on the electric bus chassis that we already have a sales commitment for. And what I also think is very exciting, we have a lot of other markets internationally also that are pulling for this vehicle. And I would be happy to sell even more. However, the challenge on the electric side is that we get sufficient batteries. And this we are constantly working on with our suppliers. But the good news is there is a good pull on the product in Sao Paulo mainly, but also for international markets. If we look at the truck side, we see also requests for more or stronger on electric vehicles. However, combined with that, often comes also the question, what is the infrastructure? What is the cost of the vehicle? Are we service station qualified? And I think this will be probably one of the essential topics we really need to look into, because on the bus side, where you go for the depots, you build up the infrastructure easier. But if you talk about the truck business, here it would be more interesting, how is the customer demand developing, but also how is the infrastructure around the vehicle developing. And we are developing vehicles. We have, as I said, vehicles in our global portfolio that we could bring. But before we really focus on bringing it, we need to have framing conditions, because the technology is quite more cost extensive than the diesel vehicles.
And regarding other kinds of low CO2 emission vehicles here in Brazil, what do you think are the trends? Do you think that alternative diesel biofuels such as biodiesel, HVO, consider a global alternative, or it remains in Brazil only? And what Mercedes is dealing with this kind of technology here?
Also a good glass bowl question. So our belief is to start that maybe that the electrification will start on the urban segment, on the bus side. And we believe we will also see a similar trend on the light or last mile delivery vehicles, on the medium and light trucks. The question then, talking about biodiesel and other biofuels, I think, and also diesel, honestly spoken, they probably will still play quite an important role in the longer distance applications or in the off-road applications. The question, I think, for the plant-based or the biodiesel is, okay, do we get to a competitive price level? And is it considered really as green? I think this is one important question. But also what we look into from a group point of view, when we talk about more long-distance vehicles or off-road application, an interesting option could also be either the fuel cell, which is on the one hand side technological advanced, but powered by hydrogen. And we are also assessing opportunities in terms of H2I, so hydrogen with the traditional combustion engines, which could also be potential for the longer distance and off-road transports. Again, however, here we need to see that the infrastructure is in place, which will be, for instance, in Brazil, one of the bigger challenges to tackle.
And regarding autonomous drive, Mercedes has presented in the last Fenatran a prototype of an autonomous truck to operations inside industrial parks. Has this project evolved forward?
That's actually one of my favorite topics because it shows that in Brazil we are not only fast following, but that we are developing also products and solutions that are new to the group. And I'm really proud that we have a cooperation with Lume Robotics here. And we have trucks running right now 4 at IPE in the, let's say, gated community, level 4 autonomous. And we are obviously planning to expand this business on the one hand side domestically in Brazil. Also, we are changing in our plant beginning of next year the in-plant transport to a level 4 automated vehicle. And what is also quite interesting for the group, because we have the level 4 and the autonomous drive in the US on the public roads, but there is quite some interest also in other areas for the technology that we have here in the gated community. So I think this is a topic where I see we are front runner in our group. We have a cooperation with a startup, which is really, really paying off. And this is a topic that is, I think, very exciting.
Well, quite before this truck, this autonomous truck, you had presented, Mercedes has presented a truck developed for sugar cane harvesting. Is there demand for them, for these trucks?
Yeah, we have actually, this is also quite a very successful cooperation project with Gruner. And we have a strong focus here on the agricultural harvesting product. And what is obviously the customer selling argument is that the running vehicles are operating 24 hours. You have a level 2 autonomous driving. So they are harvesting basically 24/7 and they're operating in a very efficient way while they're harvesting. And just to give you a feeling, the Axor that is the base for this vehicle is now with the Gruner equipment more than 1,000 times in customer hands and running in the fields. So also very exciting technology, different level of automation, but really increases the efficiency in the agricultural sector, which adds a lot of value, obviously, then to the operations of our customer.
Okay, Achim, it was fast and with no pain. And we have covered, I think, a lot of issues. And I would like to thank you very much to accepting our invitation to be here with us and to answer all the questions I have made to you. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Pedro, and as usual, a pleasure talking to you.
Muito bem, nós terminamos aqui mais uma edição do From the Top Videocast. Você também vai poder ler essa entrevista na revista de setembro no autodata.com.br. É só acessar lá e ver. E mês que vem a gente volta com outra entrevista, outro entrevistado. Até lá.